Sometimes, when I try to understand a person's motives, I play a little game. I assume the worst. What's the worst reason they could possibly have for saying what they say and doing what they do? Peter Baelish says this to Sansa Stark in Season 7, Episode 7, standing in the corridors of Winterfell. He's teaching her, sharing his philosophy, giving her the key to how he's survived and thrived in the deadly game of Westerosi politics for decades. He thinks he's mentoring his protégé, grooming her to be his partner, shaping her into someone who thinks like him, who sees the world through his lens of suspicion and manipulation. What Littlefinger doesn't realize, what he can't see because his arrogance blinds him, is that Sansa is already playing the game. Not his game, her own. And she's about to use his own advice against him. Because Sansa has already asked herself, what's the worst reason Littlefinger could have for everything he's done? And the answer to that question will get him killed. This scene reveals the moment Sansa learned the game from Littlefinger, not because he taught her, but because she finally understood him completely. She saw through him, she decoded his methods, she turned his own weapons against him, and she became the player he never expected her to be. Part 1. The Little Game. Littlefinger calls it a little game, but there's nothing little about it. This is the foundation of his entire approach to life. Assume the worst. Not hope for the best, not give people the benefit of the doubt, not trust until proven otherwise. Assume the worst. This is how Littlefinger has survived, by never trusting anyone, by always suspecting the darkest possible motives, by treating everyone as a potential threat or tool. And it's worked. He started as a minor noble from a tiny, insignificant house. The Baelishes were nothing. No power, no wealth, no connections. But through this philosophy, through assuming the worst about everyone and acting accordingly, Littlefinger rose to become Master of Coin, then Lord of Harrenhal, then Lord Protector of the Vale. He manipulated his way into positions of power that should have been impossible for someone of his birth. He orchestrated wars, he controlled kingdoms, he shaped the fate of Westeros. All because he never, ever trusted anyone. The game he's describing to Sansa isn't just a mental exercise, it's a survival strategy, a way of seeing the world that assumes everyone is dangerous, everyone is selfish, everyone will betray you if given the chance. And if you assume that, if you always prepare for betrayal, always expect the worst, you're never caught off guard. Ned Stark trusted people. He died. Robb Stark trusted the phrase. He died. Littlefinger trusted no one. He thrived. So he's teaching Sansa what he believes is the ultimate wisdom. Never trust. Always suspect. Always assume the worst. But what he doesn't realize is that Sansa is already applying this game. To him. Part 2. The Student He Created. Let's trace Sansa's education. In Season 1, she was a naive girl who dreamed of marrying princes and living in castles. She believed in songs and stories. She thought the world was fair and people were good. Then she watched her father executed, watched her dreams shattered, learned that songs lie and princes are monsters. Joffrey taught her that power corrupts, that cruelty is rewarded, that being good means being weak. Cersei taught her that women survive by manipulation, by playing men against each other, by being smarter than those who underestimate you. The Hound taught her that the world is cruel and you survive by being crueler. But Littlefinger taught her the most important lessons of all. He saved her from King's Landing, whisked her away from Joffrey's court, and in doing so, he put her in his debt. But he also showed her something crucial. People who save you always want something in return. He took her to the Eyrie, made her pretend to be his niece, put her in a position where she was dependent on him, where he controlled her identity and her safety. And then he murdered Lysa Arryn right in front of her, pushed her through the moon door,
showed Sansa exactly how ruthless he could be. But he also showed her how to turn it to her advantage. When the Lords of the Vale questioned what happened, Sansa lied for him, covered for his murder. And in doing so, she learned that lies can be power. That performance, that calculated deception where she pretended to be innocent while protecting Littlefinger, was Sansa's first real move in the game, her first conscious choice to manipulate rather than be manipulated. And Littlefinger was proud. He thought, I've created something here. I've turned this naive girl into a player. Then he sold her to the Boltons. This was his biggest mistake, not because of what Ramsay did to her, though that was horrific, but because it taught Sansa the most important lesson of all. Littlefinger will sacrifice anyone, even her, for his own advancement. He claimed to love her, claimed to want to protect her, but when it served his purposes, he handed her over to a sadistic monster without hesitation. And Sansa learned love is a lie, protection is conditional. Everyone uses everyone. Even, especially, the people who claim to care about you. So by the time Littlefinger gives her this advice in Season 7, Sansa has already learned his lessons. She knows to assume the worst. She's been living it for years. The difference is, now she's ready to use it. Part 3. The trap he's walking into. When Littlefinger gives Sansa this advice, he thinks he's in control. He's been working all season to drive a wedge between Sansa and Arya, planting seeds of suspicion, making Sansa doubt her sister's loyalty, making Arya resent Sansa's position of power. It's classic Littlefinger. Turn allies against each other, create chaos, exploit the resulting instability for your own gain. He's planted the letter Sansa wrote under duress in Season 1, the one where she begged Robb to swear fealty to Joffrey. He made sure Arya found it. He's whispered doubts, made Sansa afraid of Arya's skills as an assassin, made Arya suspicious of Sansa's ambitions. And it's working. The sisters are fighting. Sansa is scared. Arya is angry.
Littlefinger believes he's successfully manipulated the situation, that he's created exactly the kind of chaos he thrives in. So when he gives Sansa this advice, assume the worst, he thinks he's guiding her to suspect Arya, to see her sister as a threat, to potentially eliminate her. He's essentially telling Sansa, don't trust your sister. Assume she has the worst possible motives. Protect yourself. But what Littlefinger doesn't know, what he can't see, is that Sansa has already played his little game. Just not about Arya, about him. Sansa has asked herself, what's the worst reason Littlefinger could have for everything he's done? And she's arrived at the truth. Part 4. Applying the game to the teacher. Let's walk through Littlefinger's actions from Sansa's perspective, assuming the worst. He helped her escape King's Landing. Why? Best case, he cared about her, wanted to protect her. Worst case, he wanted to possess her, control her, use her claim to the north for his own advancement. He took her to the Eyrie and made her pretend to be his niece. Why? Best case, he was protecting her identity. Worst case, he was isolating her, making her dependent on him, controlling her identity so she had no power independent of his protection. He murdered Lysa Arryn. Why? Best case, Lysa was unstable and threatened Sansa. Worst case, Lysa was an obstacle to his control of the Vale. He married her to gain access, then killed her to take full power. He sold her to the Boltons. Why? Best case, he thought it would help her reclaim Winterfell. Worst case, he was positioning her as a pawn in his larger game. He knew Ramsay was a monster but didn't care. He was willing to sacrifice her well-being for his strategic advantage. He came back to help with the Battle of the Bastards. Why?
Best case, he wanted to save her. Worst case, he wanted to be the hero, put her in his debt again, make himself indispensable to her. He's been whispering doubts about Arya. Why? Best case, he's worried about Sansa's safety. Worst case, he's trying to isolate Sansa from her family, trying to make her trust only him, trying to turn the Stark sisters against each other so he can control the North. When you assume the worst about every single one of Littlefinger's actions, a clear pattern emerges. Everything he's done has been about control, about manipulation, about using Sansa as a tool to gain power. He doesn't love her, he wants to possess her. He doesn't protect her, he uses her vulnerability to make her dependent. He doesn't help her, he creates situations where she needs his help so she'll owe him. Every act of kindness is manipulation. Every gesture of protection is control. Every claim of love is a lie designed to keep her bound to him. And Sansa, applying Littlefinger's own game, has finally seen this truth completely. Part 5. The teacher becoming the student. The beautiful irony of this scene is that Littlefinger is teaching Sansa the very method she's already used to expose him. He doesn't realize that she's already ahead of him, that she's already played his little game and arrived at conclusions he never intended her to reach. But there's something even more important happening in this scene. Sansa isn't just learning Littlefinger's methods, she's learning to improve on them. Because Littlefinger's approach has a fatal flaw. He assumes everyone is like him. He assumes everyone is selfish, manipulative, willing to betray. He can't conceive of genuine loyalty or love because he's never felt those things himself. So when he looks at the Stark sisters, he sees what he would see in any siblings: rivalry, jealousy, competition for power. He assumes they'll turn on each other because that's what he would do. But Sansa understands something Littlefinger doesn't. Not everyone operates from the worst possible motives.
Arya isn't plotting against her. Jon isn't trying to steal her power. Her family, her actual family, the people who share her blood and her history, aren't her enemies. Yes, they have conflicts. Yes, there's tension. Yes, Arya resents some of Sansa's choices, and Sansa fears some of Arya's capabilities. But underneath all that, they're sisters. They're Starks. They're pack. And that's something Littlefinger, with all his intelligence and cunning, can never understand. So, Sansa has learned Littlefinger's game, but she's learned to play it better. She knows to assume the worst about people who have proven themselves untrustworthy, people like Littlefinger. But she also knows not to assume the worst about people who have proven their loyalty, people like Arya, like Jon, like her family. This is the evolution Littlefinger never made. He's so committed to his philosophy of universal suspicion that he can't distinguish between genuine allies and hidden enemies. Sansa can, and that makes her more dangerous than him. Part 6. The conversation with Bran. What happens between this scene and Littlefinger's trial is crucial. Sansa goes to Bran. This is the moment that seals Littlefinger's fate, but it's also the moment that proves Sansa has mastered the game. Because Sansa recognizes something that Littlefinger, for all his cleverness, never understood about Winterfell. The Starks have resources he doesn't know about. Bran is the three-eyed raven. He can see the past. He knows everything that's happened. Every secret Littlefinger has been hiding for years, all of it is visible to Bran. So Sansa goes to Bran and asks the right questions. She's already suspicious of Littlefinger. She's already applied his game and assumed the worst. But she needs proof. She needs details. She needs to know exactly what he's done. And Bran gives her everything. Littlefinger betrayed Ned Stark. He conspired with Cersei and the Lannisters. He held a knife to Ned's throat in the throne room. He started the War of the Five Kings by lying to Catelyn about the dagger. Every crime, every betrayal, every manipulation, all of it confirmed. And Sansa, the student who has become the master, now has everything she needs. This is brilliant strategy. She didn't just assume the worst about Littlefinger and act on suspicion. She gathered evidence. She confirmed her theory. She built an airtight case. Because Sansa understands something else Littlefinger taught her. You don't just accuse someone of being your enemy. You prove it. You make it undeniable. You make sure that when you strike, the blow is fatal. She's learned from him. But she's also learned from her family's mistakes.
Her father confronted Cersei with his suspicions and gave her time to strike first. He died. Sansa won't make that mistake. When she moves against Littlefinger, it will be swift, public, and absolutely devastating. Part 7. The Trial. The student surpasses the master. The trial scene is a masterpiece of turning the tables. Littlefinger thinks he's won. He's successfully divided the Stark sisters. Sansa has called Arya to the Great Hall, presumably to charge her with treason. The Lords of the North are assembled. The Knights of the Vale are present. This is the perfect setting for Littlefinger to watch his manipulation succeed. Sansa begins. You stand accused of murder. You stand accused of treason. Littlefinger is probably thinking, good, she's doing it. She's eliminating Arya. My plan worked. And then Sansa says, how do you answer these charges, Lord Baelish? The moment of realization, the shock on his face, the complete reversal. He's been outplayed. The student has surpassed the master. And then Sansa systematically destroys him, using everything he taught her. She recounts his crimes, not with emotion. She's learned from him not to let emotion cloud strategy, with cold, clear facts. He conspired to murder Jon Arryn. He lied to Catelyn Stark about the dagger. He betrayed Ned Stark to the Lannisters. Every revelation is another nail in his coffin. And Littlefinger tries what always worked before. He lies. He deflects. He tries to manipulate.
He sees her as a student, as someone he's molding, as his creation. He doesn't see that she's become his equal and then his superior. So when he shares his little game with her, he thinks he's guiding her, controlling her thoughts, directing her suspicions where he wants them to go. He doesn't realize he's giving her the final confirmation she needs. Because in explaining his method, he's revealing how he thinks, how he operates, how he sees the world. And Sansa, who has been studying him for years, who has survived his manipulations, who has learned from his methods, now understands him completely. She knows exactly what he is, exactly what he wants, exactly how dangerous he is, and she knows what she needs to do. The final truth. Sometimes when I try to understand a person's motives, I play a little game. I assume the worst. This scene revealed Sansa learning the game from Littlefinger because it showed her applying his own method to expose him completely. She assumed the worst about his motives, and she was right. Every act of kindness was manipulation. Every gesture of protection was control. Every claim of love was a lie designed to keep her bound to him. The worst possible interpretation of his actions turned out to be the truth. And by teaching her to think this way, by sharing his little game, Littlefinger gave Sansa the exact tool she needed to destroy him. This is the ultimate irony of teachers and students in Game of Thrones.